All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the last day of this year's NNP Symposium. This is the third year we have partnered with Central States to have a hybrid event in the spring. So we have people here in person at Central States, as well as watching live online through Zoom. So if you are online, you'll be able to participate in a Q&A at the end, just like if you were here in person. We'll go over how to do that when we get there. Other than that, there is now the option on Zoom to turn on captions. We have them on in the room. If they're helpful, we'll find out. But if you're at home and want to give them a shot, they've been working pretty well for the coin terms so far. So we'll see how they do on this one. But we are going to start off this morning with Ben Dalgleish, who is from Hong Kong. Ben, if you could go ahead and turn on your camera and microphone in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. You got there. Okay, great. So Ben is from Hong Kong. He is a coin dealer over there, and he is Hong Kong Colonial Coins on Instagram, which is where he does a lot of his business. So this morning, or this evening in his case, he'll be talking about counterfeit Ichibu silver coins from Japan. So Ben, let's make sure that your audio is working, and then I'll let you take it away.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Perfect. All righty.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction and thank you for having me. I'm hoping you're all having a good time at the coin show. So, as Liana stated, my main form of communication is on Instagram. So, if you'd like to find me, you can search for me at Hong Kong Colonial Coins. Also have a Facebook page, but yeah, Instagram is where I started and where I live currently. So it's just a way to get in touch with me if you'd like to follow up or just send me a DM through that way. So let's get started. So the main focus is going to be about Ichibu, Wonbu coins, but I just give you a little bit of background about Japan's currency. Um, there's a much better video done by the host, Liana Spurrier herself, uh, on the symposium. So if you want more details about these coins, I highly recommend you go check out her video about Japanese silver coins. But basically, for the longest time, the Japanese were using cash coins, copper coins, and silver lumps called chogin and mamitagin in order to do their financial currencies. But it wasn't until the Tokugawa era, after the major Sengoku Jidai, that we start to see the beginnings of some Bu coins, spelled BU, and we can see they started off with gold Bu. They did start to venture into regular silver coins. They started off with five Momme Mewa silver coin, but it wasn't really successful. And the first successful silver coins were actually variations of these, the Nanryo. So they had the two shoe Nanryo, which we're looking at now, and the one shoe coin. And that was in 1772 when these started to circulate. So suddenly leaping from silver lumps and cash coins, and then suddenly having some silver coins in the economy. These were very popular when they came out. People really liked them because of the high purity and the good weight. And they were actually really hard to get because everyone just kept hoarding them and wanting to use them. They didn't produce enough of them. Um, but the main focus of our talk is going to be this coin, because of some news that came out in Japan a couple of years ago. And so this is the Ichibu. And Ichi means one, and then Bu is the denomination. And then it's a silver coin. So the third character here at the bottom means silver. So it's one Bu of silver. And these coins first came out in 1837 in the Tenpo era. That's the era of the emperor's life when he was reigning. And so we call them Tenpo Ichibu. And these were minted from between 1837 to 1854. And they were very pure, considering the technology they were using at the time, 99% pure, 8.6 grams, and a mintage of nearly 80 million. So they were in widespread circulation all over Japan for the longest time. And they're very popular, not just in terms of collecting, but in terms of circulating at the time. The high purity and the easily read, script on the front and the back made it a very choice coin to use. There are actually three types of Ichibu that circulated in Japan, and these are the coins we're going to be focusing on for this talk. The second type of Ichibu, silver Ichibu, was the Ansei Ichibu, and this was the follow-on from the Tempo, and it circulated from 1859 to 1868. And you can see a significant drop in the purity, 87%, and the mintage was much lower as well. Similar weight, but with the difference of composition, you can imagine it's not exactly the same. And then finally, the last Ichibu is the Meiji Ichibu. You may recognize the term Meiji from the Meiji trade dollars, the dragon dollars, because this was occurring at the same time as those coins were being minted. So this was technically one of the last hammered coins to circulate in Japan before they transitioned to mill coins. And these only had a 1 year term of production before they were demonetized. And again, we see a drop in the purity and a heavier weight as the composition changes again, and a much lower mintage, 4.2 million. And these are some of the more sought after coins to collect in terms of typesets and coin collecting because the scarcity and the 1 year issue. But these three coins are going to be the main focus of my talk today. So if you're looking for more details about the history of these coins and the silver coins, again, I just reiterate that to go onto the NMP website, check out the library, and go see Liana's video about Japanese silver coins because it's much more comprehensive, give a much more detailed explanation about these coins and how they worked. Also, just to cover, there is a smaller denomination in the Bu, which is the Shu coin. I did mention Shu before for the Nanryo. So this is the older Shu coin that came out around the same time, just after the Nanryo I mentioned before. It's the smaller version. It's one Shu. And then this was the modern iteration, technically speaking. This is the last type of Shu coin that came out. So one Shu of silver. So just to clarify that there are other types of silver coins circulating in Japan at the time. And just to make a distinction and make it clear. Some of the, how do I say? Some of the methodology for authenticating these can cross over, but they have their own unique foibles as well. So you need to consider that not everything will cross over exactly. So here's a brief overview of the monetary system in Edo, Japan. It uses modern coins, and it's not exactly correct to every single era or time period, but it's a basic generalization. You can see we start with the Mon cash coins. These are your basic cents and half cents and pennies, however you want to describe it. And then we move on to shoes over here, the shoe coins. They came in gold and silver. And you can see you needed 250 Mon coins to make a shoe coin. And then you needed 4 shoe coins to make a Bu coin. And then from Bus, you could make a Ryo, which is, I guess you could say, the equivalent of an ounce, the Asian version of it. So in Japan, they say Ryo. In other parts of Asia, like China, they say tael, Tael. So they have a sort of their own manner of talking about ounces. And then we also have those lumps of silver I was talking about, the silver ingot coins, the mamitagen and the chogin. And then finally we have the oban, which are the big coins. You see the waving cats holding in their other hand. The one that's waving is telling the money to come in, and the big gold coin is what they want. Those lucky cats. That's what they're holding, these gold coins over here. So this is kind of a basic summary of how their money worked. And to give you some idea, Mon coins were used for just your daily transactions, buying snacks, going to the bar, um, just buying some basic vegetables and things. Silver was generally used for buying fine goods, uh, fine clothes, fresh fish, good food, a decent geisha. So they had their specific use. The gold coins were used for very high class purchases, weapons, armor. These oban, even though they're traded at gold market prices, they tended to be more kind of a gift from one lord to one of their uh I forget the term. Yeah, the words escape me. One of their servants, one of their knights or samurai. So it was more of a gift. It could be traded, of course, as it's gold. Gold is gold, but it was more of an official item rather than a piece of monetary system. But anyway, yeah. So the money was actually divided into kind of a class system as well, which is why you see how you can have one shoe over here and one shoe over here and one boo and gold over here and one, even though they're not the same, even though they're the same denomination, the metal's not the same, the gold and the silver. So they had their own specific uses as well. And again, it's the silver we're going to be mostly focusing on, but I will touch on gold a little bit later on. The production method, so if you don't know, these coins were hammered. These are all hammered coins. So we're thinking in terms of cob reals, right? Or some of the original thalers from Europe. It's really nice, actually. They have some wonderful documentation about how these coins were hammered. They have these scrolls that were actually hand drawn at the mint and used to describe the process of how the coins were made. And you can still go and find these online and see these documents at the museum and at the library in Japan. So they're really nice to see. They took great care and pride in the production of their coins. It was quite a labor-intensive process. And what was really interesting about it was that they were able to get the purity so high, considering the technology they were using, which was basically archaic and medieval for the longest time. They were able to make very high quality, 99% pure silver. And they actually had a name for that, which was called Hanafurigin, or flower fall silver. So high, or high, it was the transliteral translation, but we just call it high quality silver. So, they worked in uh, very harsh conditions, usually naked to avoid any theft. And it was actually run by the samurai class. So the laborers were being supervised by members of the clan who were appointed by the Tokugawa family in order to run the mint in Ginza. And you can see they're holding, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but you can see they're holding little hand scales. So they're measuring the coins very precisely to make sure they're not giving too much or too little silver away. And they're doing everything here from hammering to chiseling, making the dies, making the metal. It's all done in the same building. And you can see here what I mean by it's run by the samurai clan. I really mean it. You can see their weapons are actually in the building. Uh, and yeah, it's quite fascinating to see that they managed to document this. It's not something you often get to see. So it's really nice. Even the guys counting, they're doing the accounting, have the swords beside them, which is really always quite fascinating to me. It really demonstrates the shogunate really had strict control over the minting of their coins. So something happened between the 1850s and the 1860s called the currency crisis, the Bakumatsu currency crisis. And this is where we're going to be spending a bit of our time in terms of talking about these coins. You may notice the years. kind of line up with the Ichibu, and that's no coincidence. So, as I mentioned, the coins were minted from between 1837 to 1869, and the currency crisis occurred from 1853 to 1867. So, what happened? Well, for those of you who don't know, uh, Japan was a closed country. They were very xenophobic in terms of foreigners coming into their country, spreading their religion and messing up their politics. And so they forbade anyone coming into Japan. They had one exception, which was Dejima Island. It was an artificial fan-shaped island off the coast of Nagasaki, where the Dutch were allowed to operate. This is an oversimplification, but basically the VOC were the only ones who were allowed to operate in Japan. One of the reasons was so that Japan still had some way to figure out what was going on in the outside world. It was a way to just to get some news and hear what was going on, and also to do a little bit of trading, but it wasn't their main priority. They weren't really interested in doing any foreign trade. That was until 1853 when Commodore Perry from the United States showed up and forced Japan to open with gunboat diplomacy. And once he opened the doors, the rest of them came in. The British, the French, the Russians, the religious, they all came in. Funny story, just a little side fact about that. The Dutch actually warned the Japanese. Their listening posts actually told them they were coming to force Japan to open. And the Japanese government didn't believe them. They thought it was a scheme to make them buy more guns. So because of that, they were caught off guard and they quickly capitulated to all the foreigners' demands. And the the Westerners came in and caused all kinds of chaos with the economy. One issue was that the Japanese government was on a different monetary system to the West. I'm not talking about shoes and booze, I'm talking about the exchange rate of silver to gold. So you could actually, it's explained really well in Liana's video, but basically you could do a little bit of exchange tomfoolery and you could get free gold from Japan. And so sailors and merchants were doing this for the longest time. And so you can imagine all this chaos caused all kinds of further chaos. So there were civil wars, there was massive inflation. This is my favorite picture that I found while I was researching this. These aren't just people flying kites. These kites all represent different basic living goods like oil, rice, cloth, and all of them are flying into the sky because the price of these goods were flying into the sky as well. Inflation was rampant during this time. On top of that, there were civil wars, natural disasters, tsunamis, earthquakes, famines. It was a really bad time. And so we see all kinds of problems with currency as well. People not being able to get any coins, rebels not being allowed to get any coins from the government, people being cut off because the coins and their territory, there's a civil war in between. And so this currency crisis really escalated the situation and it created this vacuum of coins, this vacuum of minted specie. And so people had to come up with all kinds of ways in order to keep daily life going, because if you can't barter, if you can't trade, then you can't get basic goods. So just to clarify, we're going to be looking at contemporary forgeries. And in case anyone here is not aware, they are coins created at the time the mint was issuing these coins, from which they were copied and made for the purpose of being spent. That's the official definition of contemporary forgeries. In Japan, these contemporary forgeries, at least for the Ichibu, were called betsuza. And they're fake Ichibu that were minted for the purpose of circulation. And the minting facilities that made these were run by the feudal domains or other organizations in order to overcome the currency crisis we talked about earlier. If we have a real coin, then in Japan it's called honza. And these coins are produced by the official mint. So these are the terms I'll be referring to sometimes, just to be clear. Betsuza is bad. Honza is okay. and my screen's not moving. Right. Contemporary forgeries were known before the currency crisis. There were a few, especially during the Nanrio era when these coins were first coming out. Counterfeiters were melting down the silver and then using it to make plated copper coins. So um, it wasn't like a new thing. This had been going on for a while, but based on what I've learned in the past 2 or 3 years, it wasn't it this was just a minor little hiccup at the time. Like it was just a few individuals. There aren't many counterfeit Nanrio coins. There are a few, but not as many as there are Ichibu. Um, so this is something I just picked up this week. I just got this book this week. That's how much information is coming out right now, so quickly and so recently. There's a lot of new information coming out about the Nanrios and about the Ichibu. And, I just found this book last week and I just started translating it. And I've already found some references to counterfeits for Nanrio. And the basic summary is that there aren't too many Nanrios. There are some, but not too many. But the big issue comes with the Ichibu. The Ichibu, there are a significant amount of counterfeits. And I thought it was important enough to mention this and bring it up with the NNP and do a symposium about it because these coins are really popular. People in the US and around the world have been collecting these coins for the longest time. They had special PCGS holders with samurais on it, and you see people getting really excited about it all the time. You see people selling trays of these at the coin shows. But in the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of news has come out that says that there are a significant amount of fakes circulating in our markets today. And so here's an example of how these contemporary forgeries came to be. A direct translation of this page from this book about Japanese currency history says that the Lord of Kanazawa domain planned to produce fake coins from between 1862 to 1865. And he had official help from police officers and judges and people at the Ginza Mint, the official mint that made Honza coins, and knew about it as well. But because of the difficulties they were facing during the currency crisis, they pretended that it wasn't happening. And they actually went and spent these coins at a restaurant and no one noticed. So they decided, okay, these work, so we'll keep using them. Why they were doing this? As I said, during the currency crisis, there was a lot of trouble getting coins for various reasons. Rebellions, earthquakes, being cut off from the Ginza Mint. So these feudal lords were responsible for taking care of their domains, as for instance, Kanazawa. And so they wanted to keep their economy going. You can't do that without circulating coins from the mint. So some of these feudal lords took it upon themselves to mint their own coins in order to just keep the ball rolling. But it wasn't just one domain, it was multiple domains. And this is just one example. So if you can imagine, if we scroll back to the first things here, 80 million of these coins were minted in the Tempo era. 11 million coins of these were minted in the Ansei era, and a further 4 million were minted in the Meiji era. But on top of that, there are loads and loads of Betsuza fake Ichibu also circulating, possibly in the millions as well. And to this day, I still see Betsuza fake coins being sold alongside regular, real Honza, real Ichibu on the same table because people sometimes can't tell the difference. And so hopefully my presentation will be able to help you tell the difference between these two types of coins. So what really put me onto this is that someone in Japan worked really hard to catalog all the known contemporary forgeries for the Ichibu. This is the book Kindan no Retsu, and it literally translates to Forbidden Inferiors. And it talks about not just the genuine coins, but also the fake coins that were not minted at Ginza. And so this is an excellent resource. If you intend to collect Ichibu, I highly recommend you get a copy. It's available on Amazon JP. It's not available anywhere else. You have to get it from Amazon Japan. So you can get it delivered to, I got it delivered to Hong Kong, no problem. I set up an account, gave my address, and just sent it over, and it arrived. So it's 5,000 yen, and we're going to be looking at this book and just seeing just how excessive and how prevalent the fakes are in this sort of niche area of collecting coins. Um, can you see my camera, by the way? Can you see me? Sorry, I don't mean to drag
Yes.
you up on the
Yep, we do.
stage. Okay, so let me just pull up the camera so I can see what I'm doing. So I just want to give you show you the book. I've got it on hand with me right now. Sorry, the filter is messing with it, but this is the actual copy of the book. Oh, there we go. If I disappear, the book disappears. So I'm going to do this. I just want to give you an idea of how what it looks like. It's quite thick, right? And each page, these are all the chapters of the book. It goes over tempo, Betsuza, Ansei Betsuza, Meiji Betsuza, and then it does also show the Honza as well. Over here, Honza, 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 right? So it does show the varieties for the era and also for the fake and the real. And you can see the page number goes up quite high into the hundreds. It's about 200 pages long, 210 pages long to be exact. And every page looks like this. Every page looks like this. Full color, every single variety, every single type. Some of them have a few missing, but if you can imagine 210 times 8, and that's just the known types of Ichibu, both fake and real. They're not all fake, some of them are real, but it's a very in-depth catalog of every single known type of Ichibu, fake and real, in one book. And when you look at it, it's horrifying. Coins you thought were real turned out to be fake, you know? It just goes on and on. It's the numismatist's horror story. And this book is new. This has not been done before. Was published in 2023. And if you recall, PCGS has been releasing those special Shogun coins back in the 90s. And people have been selling these and they've been getting really popular, especially with the yen so low these days. People are flooding to Japan and just picking up buckets of these coins and selling them overseas. And these things are mixed in with the real stuff. So yeah. There are two types of Betsuza we're going to be looking at today. The first is the cast copy, and these are the ones that were made by private organizations or individuals, scammers, cheats, and they're a lot easier to spot. You can see the weight is significantly lower, the casting bubbles, right? They're really awful. It's obvious something's wrong. Okay, so any trained numismatist could figure that out. The big issue is with the finely made ones. Okay, so these are the ones that were issued by the domains, by the daimyos, by the lords of various lands. The ones that I mentioned, like Kanagawa, okay? And they are nearly flawless. And these are the ones that are really worrying. They're slightly off weight, but besides that, they look almost like the real thing. And that's the big issue because these ones are getting mixed in with the Honza. And if you're not trained, they're going to trip you up. So we're going to be looking at these ones mostly. And then after we're done learning how to authenticate these and how to identify these, then I'm going to play a little game at the end of my show. And you guys can raise your hand if you think it's real or fake. We'll play a game at the end to see how well you can figure these out. But yeah, bets made by the domains are the big concern because the amount that have been shown in this book, it's sent shockwaves through the Ichibu collecting community. Just a little side note, Ginza was aware that the Edo Mint was aware what was going on. And so these coins were actually returned to the mint and destroyed. Like this is the cancellation marks. So these are also in the book. And it's really interesting to see. I'm surprised they survived. But you can see that they've been cut and slashed in order to identify the fact that they're not real. So just wanted to point you out that, as you said, the Ginza sometimes turned a blind eye to the counterfeiting. It's not like they had much choice. It's a daimyo, it's a lord. It's not like you can send a police force and go over and arrest them. They have an army, personal army. So yeah, but it's really interesting to see that these destroyed examples actually survived to be catalogued. Quite fascinating. So the book just doesn't just look at fake coins. It also looks at the real coins. It looks at modern copies. It looks at these destroyed copies, tourist tokens. It's a really interesting book, and I highly recommend you go and pick up a copy because it's just fascinating. So we're going to start looking at how to detect the fakes. And as I mentioned, these coins were handmade, hammered, and they were measured by hand with a little scale that they were holding, balancing on their finger. So it wasn't the most precise measuring system. On top of that, they were changing the purities of the metal. So the general rule of thumb is first to check the weight. The weight should be between 8.58 and 871. Uh, the if it's a tempo error one, then it should be lighter because it's got more silver in it. If it's Ansei or Meiji, it should be a little bit heavier because it's got more copper in it. But this is the general rule of thumb, is to aim for a coin between 8.5 and 8.7 grams. Anything below that or over that, it's within 10%, it's probably not okay. The next thing to do is to check for luster. If you're a coin collector and you deal with a lot of silver, this shouldn't be too hard. Since they're 80%, 90% silver, they should still have that correct gleam. Even circulated, even worn, silver when you see silver. So they're high enough purity that you can figure it out pretty easily. The tempo ones are very easily identified because they're 99% silver. Ansei and Meiji are a lot harder because they're 80 to 85%. But yeah, checking the luster is very important. The next thing to look at is the surface of the coin. And we're going to start in the middle. If you look very carefully, you can see these fine lines running down the surface of the middle of the coin on both sides. This is actually a part of the die design and is very important to the Ichibu design. If we zoom in, I got a little, what should we call it? Not electron microscope, but just a little digital microscope. That's the word, digital microscope, to zoom in and have a look. So you can see that the lines aren't uniform and they do expand and contract because they were hand carved. But you're looking for these fine lines, almost like bamboo, running down the length of the interior of the border of the Ichibu, in order to guarantee their authenticity. This is a later version, an Ansei version. And again, if we zoom in, we can see the lines are slightly thinner, but they've also got that expanding and contracting shape to them, that fine mottled appearance. The outside, beyond the border, is smooth, paper smooth, but the interior should have these fine lines on the inside. And as you stare at more of these, you start to see a pattern in how these lines are presented. So that helps a lot with authenticity, making sure that they're not looking like dragon scales or fish scales. Right, that's a bad sign. The coins did have some security features. They're divided into two parts. The Tenpo era have smooth edges with Sakura stamps on the side. Three on the vertical and two on the horizontal, but they are mostly smooth. Just some fine cutting lines and some fine sanding lines, but nothing too egregious. The Ansei and Meiji, they finally understood what was going on with silver stealing or something. I don't know why they decided to change suddenly, but these have file marks as well as stamps sometimes, but usually just have file marks and stamps. So these types of crude file marks with their security, they're reading, as it were. So just to clarify, the two types of coins. They do have separate security features, so you do need to keep an eye out for that and check the edges. The forgotten face of the coin, they sometimes say in the hobby, right? So tempo is smooth, Ansei and Meiji are filed. This is the tricky part, calligraphy. So as you know, they didn't use the Latin alphabet in Asia. They used their own form of writing. Okay. So what I've done is I've tried to simplify it as much as possible for the English speakers. I understand I'm an English teacher, so it's a little bit daunting, but don't be put off. Okay, just imagine you're looking at squares and triangles. Okay. All right. So they've all got the same character. One boo of silver. Okay, that's all it means. One boo of silver. And the tempo, if you look, is much smoother. It's much more like a brush stroke. It's curved, it's rounded, right? It's not as straight or as rigid as the Ansei or the Meiji. I don't know if you can look very carefully, you can see the tick here is much harsher. The ticks here, it's much straighter, right? It's almost more refined, like it's done with a pen rather than a brush. Okay. So paying attention to the calligraphy does help, and there are some resources to help people who don't speak Asian or right or calligraphy. This is the reverse of all the coins, and again, they're all the same in terms of their content. So this is the Joe symbol, which is like the guarantee. It's an InQ stamp, and they feature on all three on all the back. And then down here from right to left and top to bottom, it says that this coin is guaranteed by Jose, the mint master of the Ginza Mint. That's all it says. Okay, so these 5 characters are present on all the coins, and they do have their own little foibles for each type of era. So for instance, on the Meiji coin, these 3 strokes at the top of the Joe character are straight. They go straight up. Whereas on the Ansei and the tempo, they've got little ticks. On the tempo and the Meiji, this part of the character down here, it creates a cross. And over here, it creates a cross as well. On the Ansei, it doesn't cross. That being said, there are examples where it deviates from the norm. So for instance, I've seen Meiji coins where they don't have these straight grass strokes and they actually tick like these. So watch out. But the general rule of thumb is if it's straight, it's Meiji, right? And if it's soft, it's tempo. And if there's no cross, it's Ansei. So if these kind of overlap in the wrong way, then you could be looking at a fake if they mix up the calligraphy. So just to clarify, these are all the different types of calligraphy patterns you can see. It's all documented. So if you want to learn about this, it is available and it's quite simplified. You know, you're looking for dots at the end of strokes, ticks, leaps, as they say in Japan, leaps over here. Okay, gaps in the writing. There's those 3 strokes I was talking about. Crosses and crossing over here. These are all recognized. It's really interesting to see how they do it compared to the West, where you're looking for broken E's in the trade dollars, or you're looking for certain types of writing on the dies of certain coins on Morgan dollars. And this is what they're doing for Ichibu. And it's really interesting to see the similarities and the differences between the 2 coin collecting cultures. Now, you don't need to memorize all this because this is just if you want to know collect certain varieties, but it's good to know a couple of them in order to be aware because a lot of the counterfeits, they mess these up. They don't consider them, they're part of the security feature. So if you recognize a few of them, then it can help with identifying them. For instance, the Meiji strokes up here should be straight, or the ticks up here, or the dots at the end of the Ichi, right? The cross over here at the bottom of Zei down here. They can help a bit. But I'm not going to go through all of these because even I don't understand all of it. I'm still learning myself, and also, yeah, it's too much. It's a good reference point. And also later, the reason I wanted to talk about it is because the Japanese have already done all the work for us by pointing out all the different varieties and their main features. So this might look very scary, but it's not. I swear to God, it's not very scary. So this is the Japanese equivalent of the Red Book in America. It's called the JNDA catalog, and they make one every year. And inside, you can find all the varieties listed. When you find the page, where'd you go? I lost my bookmark. Here it is. You can find all the varieties listed inside. So you can go to all these coins down here are tempo, all these kinds here are Meiji, and then from there you can see all the different varieties, and you can see the main calligraphy points that identify them. So an example I've done for one for you here. This is an AA Tamaichi. Boo. Tama means it's got a little dot at the end of the ichi. So it's a popular variety collect. And so over here we have the variety, and then we have the calligraphy. So this is the obverse, and this is the reverse. And you can see, for instance, Tamaichi here. So there should be a dot here. You have this style of san. It's like this top stroke up here. It's like a mountain. Down here, it's got like a K shape. Right, and over here, for this silver character, there's a cross. It actually crosses. So even though these are the same word, silver, gin, they've got different forms of calligraphy. This creates a K shape and this creates an X shape. And finally, they've got a tamaza, so there's a dot at the end. Some of them might have long necks or short necks. So they already know what the calligraphy patterns are. And if you can decipher these, and it's not too hard, I promise, then it does help with identification and authentication as well, because these are recognized die patterns by the JNDA. So if that's too complicated, then you can look at flowers. You can do sakura cherry blossom flower viewing as a way to relax instead. Okay, so all the Japanese coins in this range have sakura flower borders. In fact, the coins had the nickname Sakura. How much does this cost? Oh, it'll cost you 3 sakura. It was the way that they colloquially referred to their coins back in the Edo period, which is really sweet. But the sakura actually also help with the variety identification as well, and also a little bit with the authentication as well. So again, looks daunting. It's not. So if I just bring up, here we go. You can see on the obverse, we have all the sakura all around it. And on the reverse, oh, wrong way, we have all the sakura again. And these are all labeled from, come on, A to T. Capital letter means obverse. Little letter, minor letter is reverse. Okay? Lowercase, excuse me, I'm tired. Uppercase is obverse, lowercase is reverse. Okay, so for instance, we were looking at our AA coin. And if we look very carefully, one of these sakura is inverted. If we look at the first position on the obverse here, the sakura flower, the petal is pointing down. All the others are pointing up. And again, on the reverse, all the petals are pointing up except for the one in the top left-hand corner that's in the A position. So this is known as an AA variety. And you can see over here it's listed as such. And these coins don't have dates on them. Instead, the range of sakura determines which era they're from. So from A to G, they're from the Ansei period. From L to T, generally, They're from the Tenpo period, the really pure ones, the first issue ones, the 99% ones. And right in the middle, they're from the Meiji period. So with a little bit of an outlier with a B. Okay, from B to N, and then on the back from B to J. Okay, so you could, for instance, have an HH coin, then that would be a Meiji coin. If you have a PM coin, then that would be a Tempo coin. And if you had a ZZ coin, then that could be a bit of a problem. So sometimes there will be no inverted sakura on one or both facings of the coin. If there's one, usually on the obverse, if there's no inverted sakura on the obverse, that is usually tenpo. But if there's no inverted sakura on both sides, then actually it could be a fake. Could be. There are known ZZ examples where they are real and you need to dig deeper. But generally, if none of the sakura on either face is inverted, then it's highly likely you're looking at a Betsuza, because sometimes the feudal domains would forget these little details. It's the little things that get the counterfeiters forget, right? That catch them off guard and help us identify these things. But I found looking at these coins that ZZ is most likely to be counterfeit. Not always the case. There are examples of real ZZ coins. But besides that, so just being aware of these sakura that they have a meaning, okay? They are important. Looking for the inverted sakura is very important. If you can find them, then that helps a lot with authentication. Here we go. There's a mention about the inverted sakura. Z means no inverted sakura. I wonder if I have an example here, actually. Yeah, over here, see? 28, 29 down to 35. There's a ZZ listed right at the bottom, and it's exceedingly rare, and they can go for up to 100,000 yen in good condition. So they do exist out there, but there are some fakes as well. ZO, ZP, they're very interesting. Okay, moving on. Another thing you have to pay attention to is the Joe stamp. The Joe stamp is used as a guarantee that these coins are real, which really sucks when they're put on fake coins. Generally, what you're looking for, let me just minimize this, is that they're sharply struck. They were hit really hard. If a coin was found to be badly made at the mint, they were recast. They were melted down and made again. That was one of the nice things about the Ginza Mint and the Jinza Mint over in Edo and other places. They took great pride in their work up until the very end. And so if they found a problem with the coin, including the guarantee, they would recast it. Funnily enough, there are coins you can get where it's missing completely, and those are really fun error coins to collect, but we're not going to go into much that today. The main thing you're looking for is that these are sharply struck, well defined. You can see they had many different varieties of Joes. No one's cataloged them all yet. I haven't found any resources. Okay. But they're hit so hard that they actually create a bulge on the other side of the coin. So I don't know if you can see clearly in my picture here, but it's actually extruding almost through the coin. And so that's always a good sign that it's authentic, that it's actually got a bulge on the obverse as a result of being struck so hard on the reverse. Okay. And these are all examples of authentic Joes, by the way. These are all authentic. So you can see there's a lot of variety here. Some of them have, the stroke is slanted, while here it's very straight. Over here it's more curved, or over here it's fatter. So paying attention to the bulge on the front as a result of the sharp strike on the back is important to detecting authentic from fake. Oh dear, running out of time. Just out of curiosity, I decided to run these over a Sigma Precious Metals Verify. I have one at home. It's kind of necessary here in Asia because there's so many fakes. So I just wanted to show you what it looks like when these are put on a scanner. All these on the left are Tempo coins. So you can see they range in the good silver range. So I use measurement mode because if you use the Boolean measurement one, that doesn't work. You have to use measurement mode, which is a way of just giving you a score rather than the bar moving from left to right or sitting in the middle. So this machine can tell you if a coin is 999 silver or sterling silver or 49s gold or platinum. It's quite a useful machine, but they have a little hidden feature called measurement mode for non-pure coins, non-standardized coins, where it gives you just a value. And if you learn what these values mean, then it can be quite useful. The way you access it is you hold down the. Let me pull it out. Sensor select. Let me see if this will come up. Where'd it go? There I am. I'm back. Can I see me? Can I see me? Here we go. Here's the scanner. If you hold down the sensor select button and then hold for 5 seconds while the thing's powering up, and then press run, it'll enter measurement mode. Whoop, I disappeared, so yeah, it'll enter measurement mode. So anyway, I just use that as a sort of side experiment, and you can see that the silver values actually do come up. Anything between 1 and below 3 is silver. And you can see here as we get into the more debased versions of the coins, that actually the value starts to creep up, which is not a good thing. The lower the score, the better. When we get finally to the Meiji coin, which is 80% silver, it's in the tens, which if it was a Chinese dragon dollar, I would be saying, oh, this is just fake. But this is an authentic Meiji coin. So just something to keep in mind. Maybe if you ever get one, you could try, and you have this machine, you could try and compare it to these scores. Maybe it might be something to investigate in future. But honestly, the only way to be absolutely sure if a coin is real is to use XRF. So all the previous things I've talked about before, the calligraphy, the luster, the sides, they're all very useful tools. But as I said, the domain issues are so terrifyingly good that the only way you can really check if a coin from the Edo period is authentic or not is to XRF it. XRF is X-ray fluorescent, and basically they're shooting X-rays at a coin and getting particles of the metal to come back into the scanner and then telling us what the composition of the metals are. So this is a Ichibu from the Ansei period. It's an Ansei Ichibu, and it's FE variety. So you can see the inverted F over here, the inverted E over here. Okay, looks very nice. It just at first glance it looks like quite a good coin. And it's 8.71 grams, which is just on the verge of what's acceptable for weight. And I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of luster there. It's got the right stamps on the side, the right file marks. Okay. But when we XRF it, these are the results that came out of the spectrometer. And if we look at the AG, it's only 55.8% silver and 38.6% copper. And you can see all these other small amounts of other particles of other types of elements in there because these were, refined with medieval technology. But this low amount of silver is an enormous alarm bell. It suggests that the coin is probably a Betzuza. Not every feudal domain had access to good quality silver and copper mines. And so they either melt it down, mamitigan and chogin, or they just use any metals they can get their hands on in order just to make the coin look similar to the authentic versions. But if you recall, an Ansei, let's go all the way to the back, all the way to the front. An Ansei Ichibu should be 87.3% silver. So we're looking at a 30% difference, which is a massive difference by any sense of means, right? So XRF is really the only way to authenticate these because this coin looks spectacular. It's slightly green and yellow, which is an alarm bell, but you could think that was toning. But once you see the XRF result, you can see, uh-oh, that's a problem. And that's really one of the only guaranteed ways you can check a coin is authentic or not. Finally, I think I'm running out of time. I've only got 5 minutes left, so just very quickly, Japan has their own version of authentication, like PCGS and NGC. It's called the JNDA. They published the book I shared earlier, the catalog, this little one. And if you send in a coin through a Japanese dealer and it's real, it'll come back with a little certificate and a photo that looks like this. So if you're buying a high quality Ichibu, you'll want one that comes with a certificate, right? Especially one of the rarer varieties. There are other varieties to talk about. Some of these, um, like this one here with the stamps on it, the front and the back. These are, oh, I forget off the top of my head what it's called right now. I'm so tired. We've got Leaping Boo over here. We've got the Meiji Leaping Boo over here. These are all different varieties that people like to collect. And oh, it's on the top of my tongue. Liana, help me. What are these called again?
Shonai.
Shonai, thank you. Shonai varieties. There are varieties with counter stamps, and there are varieties with different calligraphies. Like this is a Meiji leaping boo, and this is a tempo leaping boo. So there are varieties that are worth collecting. Yeah, they still follow the same rules. You just have to be aware that they exist. So they have some some differences. And just touching on gold very briefly, with gold, there aren't too many contemporary fakes, thankfully. Whether because of the honor system or because it was just too difficult or whatever, it wasn't done too often. So thankfully, there aren't many contemporary fakes. But XRF is not reliable with gold so much because they treated their gold coins with lots of chemicals in order to make them more shiny, especially as debasement took place. So XRF isn't great, but generally it's as long as it's not like a massive, as long as it's like a massive difference, it's generally okay. If it's a huge difference, then yeah, then it's probably a fake. But just to give you an example of why there aren't too many contemporary fakes, during the currency crisis in a territory called Akita, they actually minted their own coins during the currency crisis in order to keep things going, and they tried making their own gold coins. And while they were doing this, they made some gold-plated silver coins just as examples. And they brought in a mint master to come and check the work. And when the mint master saw these coins, he was absolutely furious, and he almost quit and refused to work for Akita until the coins were destroyed. He was really annoyed. So, you know, even the domains that were faking these coins, they knew there was kind of like a line to be crossed when it came to gold. So they didn't really, at least in this case, didn't do it. But you can see here, here's a fake Tubu gold coin. And you can see that it's 73% gold, which is way too high. These are usually in the 20 or 30% range. So yeah, XRF can help a little bit, but it's not reliable because of the chemicals used. They can send the thing going like crazy. Um, but yeah, usually the fakes that are gold are modern. They're like 1% gold and 99% silver, or they're jewelry and 18 karat, and that's just too high. So yeah, but it's still XRF is a little bit iffy with these. So it's better to focus on other authentication techniques when dealing with gold and not rely on XRF with gold. Okay, so very quickly, Liana, do we have time for a gold real or fake game or not really?
Yeah, we have about 15 minutes before we have to call it, so we can do it.
Okay, good. Okay, I'm not gonna rush like last time. Okay, so how about we do this, Liana? I'll show a picture of an Ichibu, and then people in Zoom, if you think it's real, you can raise your hand. And if there's anyone in the audience, if you think it's real, you can raise your hand. If you think it's fake, keep your hand down. And then Liana, if you're okay to like give me a general idea if the majority think it's fake or real, can you just let me know?
All right, and
And then I'll give
I've
the
gotten a
answer.
poll set up in Zoom that we're going to see if it works. So I'm going to click launch, and if you're watching online, you should have a poll pop up for each coin. You can say real or fake, and we'll get the numbers that way. If it doesn't work, we'll do it a different way. But I'm going to click the button and
Yeah.
we're going to see if it works out.
Okay, click the button if you're in Zoom. Raise your hand in the crowd if you're there. Oh, hello.
All
Okay.
right, there's the
Uh,
poll.
can you see that on my screen?
Okay, let me get this off of my screen. No, you're good. We see your
Okay.
slide and your face.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, first one. Hello. Hi. Okay. There we go. I'll give you 10 seconds, and you can raise your hand or click the button if you think it's real or fake.
All right, yeah, so in Zoom, just select this for coin one. In the room, if you think that it is real, raise your hand. If you think it is fake, raise your hand. All right. Everyone, well, okay, we're going to give the online people another second or two. Everyone in the room thinks it's fake,
Yes, yes, excellent. Well done. Yeah, you
as
can
does
tell from
everyone
the
online. We all
excellent,
agree.
very good. Yeah, okay, we all agree. Yeah, so I started you off easy here. This is a toy made for educational purposes in Japan. You can see the lines are way too uniform. The characters too chunky. The whole thing, the color's wrong. Yeah, it's just obvious. Okay, next one. Ready?
All right, so this is coin two if you're online.
Look for coin two. If you think it's
We'll
real,
look at
raise
it
your
for a
hand in the crowd.
second.
Dun, 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 dun.
All right, in the room, raise your hand if you think it's real. If you think it's fake. Okay, most of us in the room think it's fake.
How about online?
Everyone who's answered online has also selected fake. So fake is the winner.
Really? That's fascinating. It's real. It's real. This is the actually from the Kendan no Retsui book I mentioned before, and you can see the calligraphy matches. The weight's okay. Yeah, the luster is very good. I think this is actually from PCGS. It's like an MS-64 or something. So this is a real example. So, uh-oh. Okay, it's getting more hard now. This is good. This is what I was hoping to show you that authenticating these and identifying these is absolutely terrifying. And they're all mixed together in every coin shop that you see them. So you need to be really careful. Okay, next one. Coin three. Are you ready?
We're ready.
This one I'm going to give you less time
Okay,
for
if you're
obvious
online,
reasons.
coin three, let's go ahead and put it in. In the room, who thinks it's real? Who thinks it's fake? We all agree in the room that it's fake. We also
You're
all
all
agree online that it's fake.
You're all right. You're all right. Yeah, it's correct. Yeah, it's fake. It's an obvious fake. I mean, look at the Joe character here. It's like it's got some weird border. It's not in Q, so it's actually like some neon sign, and it's got this weird mark here. Yeah, this is another little toy made out of lead, and the edges don't have any stamps on them. Okay. Next one. Coin four. Ignore the red circles.
All right, coin four, if you're online, we'll take a moment to look at it. I think it's a little bit hard to see in the room here just with the colors, but we're going to do our best. All right. If you think it's real, raise your hand. If you think it's fake, raise your hand. All right. Everyone in the room who's voted has said fake. Online is slow.
That's all right. I think it's pretty obvious it is fake. Obviously, silver coin shouldn't be brown, shouldn't be poo brown. This is actually a temple token. So you can go to a temple and you can buy a little bag with a little charm inside. And sometimes they'll have one of these. And instead of saying silver on it says this is one Boo temple. So this is actually a temple token. So, it wasn't just domains and criminal organizations making these fakes. They were done for religious purposes as well, but they were a bit more overt in demonstrating, how they were not authentic. But still, it still trips people up. So it's good to know that they're out there. Okay. All right, next one. Three, two,
All right.
one.
We have a
This is
question
coin
in the
five.
room.
Well, the survey covers the pictures. And when I hit close, it just went away entirely.
Oh, well, okay. If you're watching on a mobile device, it may be a little bit of a challenge to access the poll and see the screen at the same time. If you're on a computer, you should be able to drag it around. If you're running into that problem, just raise your hand like he originally suggested, and I will pay attention to that as well. Sorry about that. Wasn't prepared for the poll, didn't plan ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of my fault. I just kind of threw this game at Leanna just to make her Saturday really stressful. Sorry, in the crowd over there.
Tell me ahead
I
of
just
time,
like
we'll
to
be
tease Leanna.
prepared.
Okay. Ready? This is coin 5, I believe.
Is this one 5 or 6? I think it was 5. Yeah, okay.
5. We're at coin 5. I should have numbered these. I didn't know what you were doing. All right. We're all learning. All right, coin 5.
All right. Well, I'll look at it for a second.
I don't know if anyone knows the British show Countdown, but boom. There's our game show sound for when you run out of time. How's it looking?
For those in the room, who thinks it's real? All right, who thinks it's fake? Okay, we're fairly split in the room. Let's see,
Okay.
online, yeah, I think most people cannot see the actual poll itself, but we do have some hands raised. So we seem a little bit more split on this one.
We'll say if the poll's not working, if you think it's real in Zoom, just raise your hand. If you think it's fake, don't raise your hand. How about that? Just as a backup.
Okay, and just
yeah,
in
this
case
is
anyone
fake.
hasn't realized, at the bottom of the Zoom window, there's a button that says raise hand. That's what we mean. Not raising your actual hand. Click the button.
You don't. I can't see you in your room, unfortunately. We haven't got that far of CCTV technology yet. But yeah, there's a button for raising hand if you want to think it's real. Raise your hand in the app. But yeah, this is fake. The weight was way off. It should be between 8.5 and 8.7 grams. So this is a gram under. And then the color and the calligraphy and the patterns, it's all too smooth on that surface I mentioned before. Right. So these are images I've just grabbed off of eBay, off of online forums, some real life examples I've handled. But this is the kind of stuff you're going to be seeing. So it's just I'm not trying to tease you. I'm just kind of giving you examples of what you're going to be seeing in real life on the internet and in hand as well. So it's just some examples of what we've come across. Next example.
I'll look at this one for a minute. I believe this is 6 if you still have access to the poll.
Otherwise, just raise your hand if you think it's real in the app, or don't raise your hand if you think it's fake. And in the crowd, in the audience, I think you can figure out how to use your limbs.
Okay, for people in the room, who thinks it's real? All right, that's everyone's hands, so I'm not going to ask who thinks it's fake. We have quite a few hands raised online as well. So real seems to be the leaning.
Yeah, I would also lean towards real as well, although I would actually get this XRF. This is an outlier case. Now, one thing I wanted to point out, you can see these marks on the coin here. These are chop marks. They were done in Japan by the merchants who handled these coins, by the money changers, just in the same way they were done in China with the trade dollars. The difference is that these coins weren't melted down. They were put back in circulation once they were chop marked. So a merchant who wanted to check the coin might chop mark it, but their chop marks were kind of recognized. You could tell which shop it came from back in the day based on the chop mark. So sometimes chop marks can be a good indication if the coin is real, because the merchant wouldn't want to put a fake coin back into circulation because they would be recognized and they would be punished. So just a tip I've heard from some other collectors in Asia, chop marks can give some credence towards authenticity. Not total authenticity, but it just gives some credence. You can see this one's actually a bit of an error as well. It's actually missing one of the stamps here, which is interesting. But this is a tempo type. You can tell by the smoother calligraphy, right? It's less sharp, it's less harsh. And I believe this is a ZO, which is a known tempo variety. So yeah, leaning towards real, but I would XRF it just to be sure. Okay, next one.
Stamp on the bottom, the coin's been clipped.
Okay, a comment from in the room saying that the reason it's missing a stamp on the bottom is because the coin may have been clipped.
Oh yeah, that's a possibility as well. Like I said, I'd like to. Yeah, you're right. You can see over here there's a missing part. That could be a possibility as well. Yeah, we'd never know what coins have gone through. But thank you for that. So moving on to the next coin.
Okay, I have lost all sense of what number this is. Is
Hold
it
on.
8?
I'll help you. I'll help you. I'll help you. I'll help you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're on coin 7.
7. It's 7. All right. If anyone still has the poll up, we're on 7. Otherwise, raising our hands.
Just raise your hand with the app. Yeah.
So, look at it for a moment. Okay. Who thinks it's real? Who thinks it's fake? Okay, we all think it's real in the room.
Yep.
And
And
quite a few hands raised online as well.
yes,
So-
this is real. People who know me recognize this glove. This is me actually holding the coin, and this is my scale. Yeah, this is an authentic coin. And you can see here the surface here might at first lead you to thinking that it's fake. But one of the things was during the currency crisis, as Japan was modernizing from hammered coins to milled coins, the people who were working at the mint were basically being let go or were retiring or were quitting, and they weren't training the new people, or the people weren't interested in learning technology that was about to become defunct. And so one of the things you actually see with the coins as well is the quality of the workmanship starts to decline between the eras. And so you start to see more mint adjustment marks, more holes in the coin and uneven surfaces and more what seems like damage. It's just more and more laxity in the mint as the time period progressed. So Tempo coins look really nice. Ansei coins are kind of meh, and Meiji coins look like someone pooped on them. So it can actually really make authentication really hard, but also adds to it because if the coin has mint adjustment marks, then it's more likely to be real. That's another point in its factor because that's how it actually left the mint. Okay. Another one?
Just a heads up, we do have about 3 minutes left before we need to wrap it up. So we're going to move through
Okay,
these.
this is the last one. This is the last one. This is the last one.
All right, great. Look closely. Take a moment. Online, if you think it's real, raise your hand. If you think it's fake, put your hand down. In the room, who thinks it's real? All right. Eventually, everyone raised their hands.
Okay,
Let's see,
so
online. Yeah, we've got quite a few hands raised online as well. So real.
okay, yeah, I would lean towards real for this one. So yeah, it's a Ansei coin and it's got some flaws on it. They could be struck a bit better. But again, I would get this coin XRF because it's no guarantee until you see the silver content. But looking at a face value, it's okay. Okay, so we'll stop there with the game. But I just wanted to show one more example. This is a coin in my own personal collection, and it's graded by NGC as real. Okay, but it's in the book I mentioned, the Forbidden Inferiors book, as fake. This is what the real version in the middle should look like. And you can see there are some major calligraphy differences here. Just to clarify, this coin was graded in 2006 at a special event in Shanghai by NGC Shanghai. So several years before the book came out. I'm not saying that NGC is a bad grading company. I'm not saying anything disparaging about them. Just the knowledge at the time wasn't there. But general rule of thumb, for now, at the point of the video being made, do not send your coins to NGC because actually they consider them an ineligible type. And that's kudos to them because they know there's not enough literature about these to grade these safely. They graded them once in China through the Shanghai office just as a one-off gimmick, and they've never touched them since. And there are so many fakes, they know it's dangerous. Only PCGS and Annex accepts these and some other grading companies, but never send these to NGC. I've had to I've had to tell people over and over again, don't send to NGC, you'll get them back as ineligible type. And then people send them to NGC anyway and then complain, why didn't you tell me not to send them to NGC? And I literally told you, don't send them to NGC. Okay. NGC is a great company, but they just don't accept these types. So just wanted to remind people about that. If you have any reading you want to do about these are the recommended books. The one I recommended is Kindan no Retsui. There's also Leanna's website. There's the JNDA catalog they do on an annual basis. And then the 2 coins you can get in English are Hartil, ancient Japanese coins, and then the standard Japanese catalog coins from 2021, but it's really hard to get it. But it is a really good book. I've got it right here, and it's really nice as well. So if you want these books, you can refer to the PowerPoint later, and you can get these titles. Just want to say thank you to PCGS for all the photos and all the hard work, Ginza Coins and Sakura Collections for sending me some real examples on short notice to help me take some nice photos, and of course Leanna Spur for all her hard work regarding these types of coins and all the help she's done with my research. I guess we don't have time for questions.
Yeah, we're gonna have to wrap it up there. If anyone has any questions for Ben, then you can send them in through the NNP Symposium, and I will pass them along to put you in touch. Just go to nnpsymposium.org, click on Contact Us. You can send them in on the form there, and I'll pass them along to get you all connected. If you're here in person, you can come up to Len after this presentation, talk to him about your questions, and we can pass them along that way. I will be getting set up for the next presenter. So that's all for this one. Thank you so much. We'll be back at 10:30 with the final presentation in the Nebraska State Showcase Series for the symposium. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Ben, for taking the time to present so late at night.
Yeah, good night, everyone. I'm going to bed now. Bye.
Thank you.